So Empty Cloud Monk was talking about, some of the karma things that once somebody has attained a certain level, that it is indelible. And so I was thinking about, so it was a bootleg, like right now, I can download this from the Gyuto monks doing the Guya Samaja initiation from YouTube. It's a legitimate, if I understand it, it's legitimate. But see, I was understanding it that night, and there was also some libations in the room. And it was through accepting a libation that I ended up knocked out cold. And but the thing is that rather than associate with those people, a karmic occurrence occurred in which I just became excluded from the experience of listening to this tape as a bootleg. And I was excluded from the experience of using the other bootlegs of the manuscripts that have come out in the past 10, 20 years that had not yet been published, that were also circulating among this community. And I was excluded from that, and that I think is beneficial. That was my good karma. They were saying the whole time it was bad karma, but it was good karma not to have been brought in to that kind of a thing. And so that is something that is very important to think about. What do you know, what you don't know? There are flavors that appeal to different people, that serve different people. People take different vows at different times. And the monks that associate, one of the things this Bandi was saying that wasn't exactly correct was that, streamer won't have any aggression or anger or anything like that. Maybe that's true until they take the Bodhisattva vow. Maybe that's true. Once you've taken the Bodhisattva vow, you have the 9 dramatic moods. You'll use any kind of skillful means. But I know that even the Theravadins are in fear of their gurus, that they'll be yelled at, that they'll be, that things will happen to them. Maybe they, that's one of the things that women understand, that if a man is so calm that he'll just kick you out the first time he gets mad, you're going to be homeless. A lot of women put up with a lot of abuse because it's less abusive than being on the street. And a lot of monks are like that they don't want to be in a situation in which if the master has to raise its voice, it's just going to be to tell you to leave. So there's compassion in anger. And this guy always seems like bitter and terse all the time, like he's being very strict. But there's also the case that he's got the fleur-de-lis behind him. And he's, talking from San Francisco. Assuming his sponsors are, that they don't overcrowd that place. So it's like, if something is too perfect, that's a sign. I was, as I said, I've been reading the Vajrayana Sutra, and at first I read the first 8 pages really fast, and now I'm reading like 2 or 3 pages a day. So anyway, yeah, we had to, we are, complying with everything that everybody wants from me right now, but we had to make an adjustment because I don't have as much brain mass as they presume me to have. And I cannot convince them to document that I've had a lobotomy and a TBI, and I need the small brain mass dose. But I need a dose, and I told them that 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams. And so, and that protein was really more effective towards the whispering, which isn't really a problem. It's the telling AJ I'm going to drag him out of his wheelchair and throw him in the street that's a problem. No matter how many times he calls me a whore. Which is how the world is, You think it's not fair, And it's not that if I was actually going to do it, he'd have been in the street. I just wanted him to understand that there's only so far you could push a person, and see that look in my eyes because I was pretty close to it. But I also needed to, but I think I found out that my animals are dead. So I don't know what happened to my bird cage. They might have still been alive because they had water, and I think the big bird could get the food that he'd thrown on the ground to save for later. I don't know what happened to the little birds. And but my cage was gone when I got home. But Tammy seemed to imply that they took my bunny out to the trash, so. Anyway, so a lot of people say, well, we didn't mean for that to happen. But I have crossed a threshold in terms of my understanding of different things. And for a while, the Buddhas were saying, you need to get the animals out of the house. And I was like, you need to let me wait for a time when I can get them out correctly. And they were like, yeah, it didn't compute with them.